Occasions, we've heard a lot about security at ballparks in Chicago.
It's mostly been about unruly fans, an isolated crackpot assaulting coaches or umpires on the field. But tonight, a Fox investigation has uncovered allegations of repeated assaults by a ballpark security guard against fans in the stands. Our investigative reporter Larry Yellen joins us with the story.
Walter and Robin, anyone who's been to Wrigley Field or U.S. Cellular Field knows that the ushers and the security guards put up with a lot from some fans. But tonight, allegations that one guard in particular violently overreacted in many situations, and that security officials with the Chicago Cubs ignored a clear pattern of complaints, even lawsuits, against one of its employees.
One pitch hammered straight away center field.
September 3rd, 1999, first inning, Cubs and Dodgers. Slammin' Sammy Sosa hits number 57. It lands in the left field bleachers, the same bleachers where 3 innings later, a different kind of slammin' takes place, one that left a lifelong Cubs fan with a broken nose, a black eye, and a Bleachers Club t-shirt splattered with blood.
One of the security guards just grabbed a hold of my husband, punched him in the face, right in his nose, threw him down on the stairs, and continued to beat him as my husband was laying on the stairs.
It was a Chicago Cubs security guard, Robert Gross, who Sandy Obis says assaulted her husband, Walter. Obis is now suing the Cubs and Robert Gross. It's the 5th time that Robert Gross has been sued for abusing fans at Wrigley Field. The other 4 cases were quietly settled, with payments of undisclosed amounts to the alleged victims. Peter Lubin is Walter Obis's attorney.
I believe the evidence in this case will show at trial that they have a Bush League security organization and no adequate policies and procedures for eliminating a rogue security guard.
Obis was celebrating his 50th birthday at Wrigley Field. According to Robert Gross's incident report, one of Obis's friends began harassing another fan over catching a home run ball. Obis's friend allegedly continued his loud and obnoxious behavior and was finally asked to leave the ballpark. Gross testified in a pre-trial deposition that on the way out, Obis cold-cocked me without any provocation whatsoever. Obis's wife, though, says it was the Cubs security guard who took the first swing, and then he kept swinging.
I started screaming. I jumped on top of Mr. Gross and was trying to pull him off, and he wouldn't get off. No one helped me.
He simply says my client provoked him, which is not true. A 50-year-old man who hadn't probably been in a fight since grade school isn't going to attack a 350-pound security guard.
In court documents, Lubin points to the Cubs' own evaluation of Gross in 1999, the same year his client was injured. Too physical with patrons, too many violent incidents. 8 years earlier, Gross's supervisors noted that he can be belligerent. In most cases, he is rude when there is no call for it.
They had all the red flags there to get rid of Mr. Gross. They knew there was a pattern of violence, and they did nothing to prevent that from continuing.
There's a base hit.
One of those alleged red flags, June 14th, 1993.
I had an altercation with a guard there a long time ago, which actually frightens me to death to ever go back into that park.
This Chicago area insurance broker asked us not to show his face because now, 10 years later, he still fears retaliation if he ever returns to Wrigley Field. He's a die-hard Cubs fan who says he once asked Robert Gross to move some fans who were standing in an aisle, blocking his view of the game. Gross allegedly refused. The insurance agent demanded to see his supervisor, at which point he says Gross hit him in the ribs. 2 months later...
There's a drive. Look out. That's gone.
Sports radio host Randall Bloomquist says that he and some friends were sitting behind the first base dugout when Cubs ushers asked a woman with tickets in another section to leave. He started chanting, "Let her stay," at which point security guards asked him to leave. His wife followed, and Gross allegedly assaulted her.
Even if I had been out of line, and even if I had been unruly, why are you slamming my wife into a concrete piling?
Bloomquist never filed a lawsuit. He merely sent an angry letter to the Cubs. When I contacted the Cubs about Robert Gross, a spokesman told me the team will not discuss pending litigation. In court papers, the Cubs have denied Walter Obis's allegations. Robert Gross also declined to answer my questions. He has previously denied using excessive force. Gross was fired in 1999, about 1 month after allegedly attacking Obis. Cubs officials have testified he was fired for repeatedly being late to work. So Gross is now gone, but the fans he allegedly abused say they'll never forget their encounters with him at Wrigley Field.
You don't see your wife get thrown around like a rag doll and not remember that for a very long time.
I would hope that over the past 10 years that things would have improved. My own personal belief is that the friendly confines might not be so friendly after all.
We're told that Robert Gross is now working as a bus driver. One of his former co-workers at Wrigley Field says the problem was that Gross was an old school type of security guard when it came to ballpark security, not one of the fan-friendly types that the Cubs seem to prefer. Walter and Robin.
Well, the fans may prefer as well. Those personnel records seem to be very damning. How did they get a hold of those?
This was part of a discovery in the civil lawsuit. The lawsuit was filed in 2000 or so, and it's taken 3 years, and that's why this pattern, the complaints, the things in his file is just coming out now.
Thanks, Larry.